Greetings, greetings and welcome. I have started the story early. Some of you may have caught my video earlier today about some updates to my page, to my Facebook group, and more. And what I wanted to do was I was so excited about this topic that I thought about getting started a little early, because there are some things that women in my circles have been discussing in regards to women and femininity, and in particular Black women and femininity. I want to welcome you all. Thank you all for joining me. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So it's a pleasure to have you all join me today. We're just going to have a really good discussion on Black women's femininity and femininity in general, which doesn't necessarily pertain to one particular race, but particularly our interest today and for the things that we've been dealing with is within the Black community. Can you all hear me? I hope you all can hear me. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking in a vacuum. Today I have a special guest, and I am so thrilled to have her on today because this is a sister that I've been vibing with for quite some time. And thank you all for the hearts and the likes. Both she and I have been on the same page for some time, and we have really and truly, thank you so much, sis. I appreciate that. We've been really vibing and feeding off of one another and really growing and learning. And one of the things that I have appreciated about dealing with this sister is that she exemplifies the ability of forward-thinking, upwardly mobile women able to cooperate rather than compete. And so she and I are able to vibe off of one another and never have a fear of, competition. She and I are both in very similar fields in terms of our client base. And greetings, sis. Okay, I see you. And so we've been able to touch base on a lot of different issues and never having had an issue with, greetings everyone, with competition. And so I could say a whole lot about this sister that I want to add, which is Dr. Portia. But I do want her to get on in here. And I hope that you all have a cup of coffee, tea, glass of wine, some water, whatever it is that you enjoy and you want to sit down, spend some time with us and just enjoy a good conversation. Fortunately, this will be here for replay for those who are not able to get in, but we really want to engage an intelligent and forward-thinking perspective on femininity and really move the discussion forward. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to add her and see if I can get this. Okay, here we go. I think did it work? Oh, Lord. Okay, approve. Add. To add her. I think it worked. Let's see if it works. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Woo, we did it. Welcome, beautiful. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I am so excited. If you all have not had the opportunity to be blessed and blazed by her Facebook updates, you definitely have to add her and get your life, okay? Because she is a phenomenal mind, a phenomenal businesswoman, a phenomenal woman, a mother, and an entrepreneur, and simply way ahead of the game in terms of her thinking and her forward projection as to building wealth, building stability, and simply finding your place in a world that has often left us behind, or that we have chosen to leave us behind. And so, sis, I want you, rather than myself going through, you know, all the long, long, beautiful points as to who you are and what you're about, I would love for you to give our listeners a brief introduction to yourself, what you do, what you're about. And then later, once we get out of this, we'll go ahead and add the links to our websites and our Facebook pages and whatnot, so you all can come back later. But give us a little intro into who you are.
Well, thank you so much, Falia, for inviting me on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Dr. Portia Fulford, and I am, if I had one word to like describe what I'm about and who I
Mm-hmm.
am, and I would use the words an avid learner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
commit to learning, and with that commitment to learning came the requirement to change.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once you commit to a learning process, you are then required to change. That means
Right.
that you're gonna be uncomfortable in some,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what you kind
True.
of bring on when you decide and commit your life to be a learner and be a great student of life, a great
Mm-hmm.
manager of the resources you have. So you then have a bond, a commitment, a agreement with the source to do
Right.
your best to develop great relationships, but also to better yourself, just to better
Yes.
you. And so I am of course, a woman. I am a mother, a business owner, a landowner, and I run an agricultural empire. And
Mm.
I long stopped using the word farming because the word farming does not describe what I do. I approached the farming industry from a um, lucrative and wealth building asset strategy. I'm not just
Mm.
out just planning because I like to see things grow. That's wonderful. I
Right.
love to do that. But also, not being born into wealth myself, I knew at a very early age that I had to work this life. I had to work. And that means that I had to commit to learning as much as I possibly can, because the world that was given to me was not a world that I could accept. And
Mm.
for that reason, I started off, in agriculture, well, in education first. I was a school teacher for many
Mm-hmm.
years, and then went into medicine. My doctorate is actually in Black women's studies with the focus in herbal medicine. And then I came out of
Mm.
that into midwifery, and into agriculture. And that's my niche down. Like, my days are spent helping other people build empires. I got a phone call today from a sister in Georgia that has nearly 200 acres of land that wants to do something with it. And so
Mm.
my days are really spent helping other people build empires. And I'm a strong advocate of women in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, because I actually
Absolutely.
think, and I don't even think I've said this publicly, as much as I've been just studying and investing in Bitcoin, but I think it's a feminine energy system for money. And I look at
Mm.
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a pantheon of women. And if you
Okay.
learn them, you free yourself, because unlike all the other financial models that we use in the world, they were all based off of structural male energy. Take, take,
Mm.
take, give. I mean, take as much as you can. Um,
Right.
Unbalanced. But cryptocurrency is a global currency, and I look at that
Mm.
as the ultimate mother. So I do think that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Litecoin, I actually think this is feminine energy on the planet that is at this point uncontrollable, but it's also a way for us to break the cycles of doing the same things in the same kinds of ways. When I look at how Bitcoin functions and how she is disrupting planet Earth, this is
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful storm. You know what I mean? This is
Right. Oh,
completely
beautiful
killing
storm.
all the false hoods of what it takes to be financially wealthy, just turn that whole system upside down. So I like to consider myself a learner, a person that's committed to the learning process. And with that process came the obligation to do some things differently. And they were uncomfortable to do. It's still uncomfortable to do. You never get comfortable because, it's not a destination, it's a process. But when you commit to that process, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be able to analyze your life for exactly where it is and how you got to that point. So I would describe myself definitely as a learner.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And see, I didn't even know you had added midwifery to it. So we're gonna have to have a whole nother discussion on that.
Oh yeah.
That's what I love about the multitude of our skills and, the things that we have in our medicine bag, so to speak,
Oh yeah.
as feminine, divine energy. It's amazing.
And it's so interesting because throughout life we kind of, as especially women that are in the financial sector and women that are um in a very high energy ambitious mode, we almost feel this pull to function as a man, to be hard,
Mm.
aggressive, and don't
Mm-hmm.
play with me kind of thing, you know what I mean? But I found
Mm-hmm.
that femininity is my sanity. It gives
Mm.
the right to be exactly what I am, and to me, you don't have to play that game and still win. You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
part of the
Right.
deception I think that a lot of women face, is when they go
Mm-hmm.
into different fields, they feel like this pressure to conform to the standard black suit and the black heels, and never be a minute late for work, and always cross your T's and dot your I's, when it's completely unrealistic for
Mm-hmm.
anyone. So I think that, like for me, being a woman that embraces her femininity, even in a business, even in aggressive situations, because in agribusiness,
Mm.
I do deal with a lot of aggressive men. And so a lot of times, um, they don't see or hear you because their world is not shaped by, um, holistic way of thinking. And so this competitiveness, this, you know I'm gonna eat before anybody else eat, and that kind of mentality is very, very
Mm-hmm.
limited. And so I'm very
Mm-hmm.
grateful for things like Bitcoin and other things that are coming onto the market that really frees people up to not engage in such limited thinking and limited systems.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, what I want to piggyback off of what you've been discussing, because it has very much to do with what we want to discuss today. And, both you and I post on very similar concepts in regards to um, the relationship and the imbalance with masculine and feminine energies,
Hmm.
and how that plays out in our lives as women, as mothers, as wives, as potential wives. And so, before we get into some of the aspects of our femininity, I would love for you, and believe me, for those who are watching, and again, thank you all for watching. And I know a lot of people are working, and they're probably going to watch this later. And we would appreciate it if you were to share this recording onto your page, because I'm quite sure there are so many who might not have gotten the notification that we are live and discussing this issue. So, if you would like to share onto your page so that some of those who may not have known about it can have access to it, it would be awesome. Um, I would like for us, because I know that there are a lot of people who have dipped and dabbled into the concept of femininity, and it's been a hot topic lately, but so that we can come at it through the back way, I would like for you to give us a picture of what it looks like for the woman to be in her masculine energy. In other words, list some of the things that we may all be experiencing, doing, going through on a day to day basis as a person who is in their hyper masculine mode, meanwhile being within the feminine vessel. So, what would some of those things look like? What are some of the things we're doing on a day to day basis? And we may not even be realizing that this is a very masculine trait. And then we can go into the flip side of how would that look if we were within our feminine mode.
Absolutely. Some of the traits I think that really have put women in general, but specifically Black women, in this hyper masculine, hard core, driven with no fuel kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
This need to compete, that's one thing. Also, the need to be accepted and validated and loved by people that we know don't serve us any good. Also,
Mm.
woman is in a masculine state, high routine levels. There's no time for actually self-care. So when you see a woman
Mm.
that look like she's been hit by a bus, um,
Right.
there's no time for self-care in a masculine role for a woman, because they're always about chronic providing, which is
Yes.
unnatural for a woman to consistently be in survival mode. And so what we see is that when women are kept in survival mode for very long periods of time, not only does it alter their sanity, it
Uh-huh.
alters their anatomy as well. They start
Mm.
producing hormones they start producing hormones that really are male driven. In other words, increase
Uh-oh. Okay.
um adrenaline driven. They're under
Mm-hmm.
pressure a lot, and so they're
Mm-hmm.
always in this hyper masculine role where they feel this need to like compete all the time. And one of the ways, the subtle ways, especially in the Black community, that
Mm-hmm.
we see is the pursuit of a good man. That's
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes the signal to come out of your natural receiving state and be good or act good. And so when we talk about masculine, we will talk about adrenaline rushing, high routines, no time for self-care, um, always on the path of proving that you can do more, or proving that you can compete with a man, always proving that you can obtain as much or take as much, or work nonstop and not have to have any rest. And all those things are some of the signs of a hyper masculine role. It destroys the female vessel, because what
Mm.
it do is anatomically it puts you in a mind of a man, but in a female body. See, when you talk about women, as achievement and providing are two different things. You can be achieved as a
Mm-hmm.
great writer, as a great mother, as a great engineer, as a great businesswoman. You can be achieved, but when the roles come to consistently providing in survival mode, you're a totally different creature, because you're not sane. Because part of femininity is taking care of yourself. So if the majority of women of color are not allowed time to take care of themselves, they cannot be feminine.
Mm.
So while people run around talking about they are so against homosexuality, but what do we classify what Black women have become?
Right.
It's a creature that is totally,
Mm.
totally, totally out of its natural state. And so when we begin to look at that hypermasculine role, it is designed to keep you in survival mode, because femininity is actually supposed to be natural to most women. But most
Mm-hmm.
women have to be made to take care of themselves, made to take a break, made to adorn themselves, made to eat healthy. These are things that should be not, that's the course of action of a woman that's in a culture that does not value her femininity. right? So the
Right.
only value that that woman has is a value that says she can produce. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
She can produce. She can produce children. She can produce
Mm.
income. She can produce, you know, emotional security. She can produce, you know, you can run off and have all the affairs and all the stuff you want to because
Right.
she's there. Her job is to just produce. She's not rewarded for receiving well.
Mm.
She's not rewarded for receiving well because we have all
Speak
kind of
on that.
for women that receive well. We call them gold diggers and hustlers and all these things. We think
Mm-hmm.
we just
Mm-hmm.
women from receiving well. When we know that when a woman is well kept and a woman is receiving well, everything in her vicinity, everything in her environment flourishes.
Mm.
Right? The house is beautiful, fresh flowers, it's warm, incense, the house is clean because she's not in a state of survival. And then
Mm.
whatever business they have, that business can run more efficiently because she's actually able to use her intuition and her skill set to grow the family's empire.
Right.
The children are well taken care of because she notices when they have a cold. She notices when their mood changes. She notices when they're not feeling well. But when a woman is in constant survival mode, she is a very number one, she's going to be a dead creature soon.
Mm.
Your life,
Right.
you're going to die like that. Number
Right.
two, when a woman is kept in survival mode, she is also easy prey because
Mm.
never able to analyze any situation because everything is always riding from one check to the next.
Oh my God.
She's easy prey because she
Mm.
doesn't even have the capacity or the time to say, you know what, this is not good for me, or I don't want this.
Right.
It's constant pressure. So
Mm. Mm.
also,
Mm. Mm.
lastly, one of the elements of a woman that's in consistent survival mode is that she is trained to withstand trauma over and
Mm.
over again.
Girl.
She's
Girl,
trained to
listen.
withstand trauma. So somebody rapes her daughter. Oh, you know, somebody else is going to forgive them for that. Somebody violates her family or violates her space or physically
Mm.
abuses her or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be okay because she's been trained to absorb and hold trauma. And
And keep
all
it
these
moving.
and keep moving. It's always keep moving. Get over it. You got to go back to work.
Right.
You got to,
Right.
it's all something else to do.
Right.
And when you're in that state, you cannot be feminine because to be
Absolutely.
feminine mean that you are actually going to have to begin to face some very tough choices. Number one, around mate selection. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, around wealth. And number three, much are you going to declare your femininity in new relationships?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always this pull to bring a
Mm-hmm.
woman back to a providing state, back
Right.
to exhaustion, back to constant confusion and disarray and upset and frustration. There's always confusion and there's always a pull to bring her back in certain cultures, especially Black culture, because
Right.
Black culture rewards women for suffering, right?
Yes.
It rewards
Girl.
for suffering. The more suffering
Mm.
you have, the more suffering you have, the more noble you become. That's why, you know, Big Mama has such a pedestal. But it's amazing that everybody can say how holy Big Mama is, but nobody noticed that she's dying.
Mm.
That's really interesting. Big Mama
Mm-hmm.
is almost never well in her last days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's resentful. She's angry. She's
Mm-hmm.
um, unfulfilled.
Right.
Because at the
Right.
end of the day, she lived a life in the body of a woman, but was robbed of the opportunity to be
To
feminine,
be a woman.
to be a
Yes.
woman. Yes.
So, oh my gosh. I can't even like I have about 15 points here. You just broke it down rapid fire. Um, one of the things that was very critical in my own evolution, and I know as well in your evolution, has been first the recognition that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No amount of self-help books, whatever we're doing, smoothies for a week, cleansing, all of these things that we are piling onto our already overloaded plate
Right.
seem to get us to the root of what we are missing in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And when we review our past relationships, when we review our past marriages, when we review the energy in our homes, when we review our work life, um, we all have some very clear cut commonalities
Mm-hmm.
that we can all call upon. And it's not that mysterious. It's not something that, you have to sit and figure out for a long period of time in terms of what is wrong with us. And I have found that so many of the causes of many of the issues that I have had in my past was due to
Mm-hmm.
lack of training and understanding of my feminine nature.
Yes.
So I had a mother who was a high achiever, who had no time for home life, who broke various records, et cetera, executive corporate world, whatever. But I learned absolutely nothing about being a woman,
Mm-hmm.
what it meant to be a woman. I mean, it was the personification of being a woman breaking through glass ceilings in the corporate world. And
Mm-hmm.
she did it, but at what cost?
Right.
The home life was a wreck. I'm not even going to go through it, but I sure got out of there as quickly as I could and went to boarding school. But that also precipitated a life of zero training. Correct. Right, Sharice. Zero training in terms of dating,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of my own worth,
Right.
in terms of, what it is I should be looking for in a man. And then when you add to that the sense of abandonment with divorce
Mm-hmm.
in families, the father leaving, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you look back at it, now when I think back at some of the things that my mother was saying that my father would say to her, well, the majority of it was because she was a masculine man and he wanted a feminine woman.
Mm-hmm.
And while some of the things he had said may have been uncouth or whatever, but the bottom line is he wanted a feminine woman. And when he left her and he went and remarried, he got an ultra feminine woman. And
Mm-hmm.
they stayed together until he passed away. And though I did not spend much time with her, now that I am reviewing femininity, I all of the things that she was doing in the home, always humming, singing. She was very deep into her Christianity, but she was always, everything is slayed. You know what I mean? Like she didn't wake up and wasn't jacked. She took time to care for herself. She was
Right.
always looking good. She was dressed in the house. Even if she just got up to make breakfast, she was, laid out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Always humming, always happy, catering to his needs. And why? Because he was catering to her needs. He was
Mm-hmm.
there for her. He was attentive. So it's not a question of a lot of women in their masculine mode are always saying, I'm not taking care of a man because what is he doing for me? Well, a lot of feminine men are also asking, well, what do you bring into the table as a woman? I'm not taking care of you. So everyone's saying the same thing because everyone is doing the masculine and the feminine situation. But what I want to explain is that and I want to give motivation and courage to women who are at this stage where they are 100% dissatisfied
Mm-hmm.
with the status quo. They are
Right.
exhausted from working 40 something hours or more a week. They are exhausted from never being able to spend real quality time with their children. They're exhausted from having to work while on their cycles.
Right.
Whole nother video, never being able to rest, exhausted from having to take care of others to the point where we are completely depleted. We are exhausted from making choices and choosing the same type of feminine men over and over again who are requesting that we work as pack mules. who are requesting that we pay the bills, who are requesting that we do 50-50, who are requesting that we build with them and all of these things, when if we are all working 40 hours a week, both, but women are always going to have the shorter end of the stick, because we are still going to come home. And while
Right.
he may sit back on the couch and relax because he worked a full day, we work the full day, but then we have to still come home, cook, clean, rush
Mm-hmm.
through some homework with some children, and then service him, sex him when he, you know what I mean? And we have to do
Right.
all of this, which most men are not doing, but we're both working the same amount of time. And
Right.
so I want to share something with, and then I'm going to punt the ball back to you. But one of the things that was most valuable to me is my time spent in West Africa, where it was in a metropolitan city in Abidjan, and I lived there for 4 years. And I lived in an upper middle class home. So the woman did work outside of the home, though many of them did not. She
Mm-hmm.
worked outside of the home, but you best believe that she had cousins from back there in the village, two of them, usually teens that wanted to come to the city. Just that was it. Like that was their whole dream, was to come to the big city with the skyscrapers and the
Right.
highways and all of that. And they would come in. One took care of the children. They were not in daycares. And the other did hand washing the laundry and the cooking and going to the market and doing all of that. Typically, there were two, a minimum of two in the home, 18, 19-ish years old,
Mm-hmm.
between 16 to 19-ish years old in the
Right.
home. So she would go out and work, but she best believes she set the menu for the day before she left. I need you to buy X, Y, and Z at the market. I need this wash, the linens from whatever. We have guests tonight. I need you to. And she would set the whole situation up. She may even
Right.
still come home and cook a little bit. But when I say that the American woman has this idea of womanhood that is completely backwards, there are women who are even, let's say you don't want to give up your profession, there are women working in the world who still have the support. They are not doing it all themselves. But we
Mm-hmm.
have this idea that we have to do it all ourselves, that we have to just work 40 something hours a week, plus do the dishes, plus cook, plus run the errands, plus the extracurricular, plus the soccer, plus the dance classes, plus all of that. No, most people in the world are not doing all of that as women.
Right.
And so then when we come into that, and then now we want to also add that we've made horrible decisions in terms of our choices in men who
Right.
are not pulling their weight. And I'm not going to get into a male bashing right now, but the that's another video, and not bashing, but in terms of the feminization of men
Right.
who
Right.
expect women to pull their weight. And you know what I'm saying, like it's not the expectation that everyone has a particular domain that they work in that is most fabulous, and everyone fails from that.
Right.
So when you discuss, for instance, the need to compete, the seeking approval, overscheduling ourselves so that we don't have the self-care, so that it's affecting our anatomy, and we've become achievers versus, providers, and our validation is in our ability to produce.
Mm-hmm.
When we are trained up in this way and watching big mamas and all of that, of course we're going to go out and look for men who expect us
Mm-hmm.
to pay the bills, who expect us to do all of that. But then men are not going to relinquish that portion of their masculinity where they are looking for a feminine woman. They're looking for a woman who can do all of that and still look like Beyonce at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Still be fit, still be slayed, still feel
Yeah.
like having sex with him, still feel like doing all of that and
Right.
building him up and doing all of this. We expect all of the men expect a woman to look good and do all of these things while paying the bills, even though he's there. And
Right.
so I would ask you, and I will go into some of it as well. If you are a woman and you are feeling what I have expressed and what Sister Portia has expressed, what are some of the first steps that a woman can take to begin the route of return to her femininity. And then I'm going to go into some of the immediate results that come about from doing these particular things. And it's not to say that she's all of a sudden going to quit her job and stop taking care of her children or whatever. But in terms of mentality, in terms of your expectations of yourself and of your life, what are some very valuable and critical steps that a woman can take to begin to return to her sense of femininity?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, um, being that woman that you were talking about, probably very similar to your mother, very high strong, very ambitious, very driven, highly successful. Um, because we live in a culture that promotes that over your sanity, it's really
Mm,
subtle before you begin to realize that you're really in an insane state. And that's not a bad thing, because the damage comes when you don't recognize it, right? But
right,
some of the
right.
steps you some of the steps you can take, I think the first step is reestablishing your worth to yourself, right? What am I worth to me, right? And what's important to me? Not about what you have, who you with, whether you're married, all the statuses. What am I worth to me? And what do I want? Outside of any other, outside of our children, outside of our mates and husbands, what do I want? It's the first step towards femininity. Because when you are very crystal clear about what it is that you want and what your worth is to yourself, you have a foundation by which to judge every relationship you have in your life. What happens is
Mm,
most people, especially Black women, we are told what we want. We're
mm-hmm.
told what we want, and we're told exactly what we're going to do to maintain what they say we want. We never
Mm,
are afforded that luxury of seeing what it is. So the first step is to reestablish a self-worth to yourself and become very
right.
clear about what it is you want in the world. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of femininity, is to tap into your natural resources as a woman, because we're always taught to use tools that are external. That's part of being in a patriarchal system, is that we're taught that the only way to really achieve things is to, or achieve value, is to work or to compete, right?
Right.
But these are
Mm-hmm.
values only taught to poor women. These are not
Mm,
values that are taught to women that are non-colored or women that are fluent, because it's expected by the world that a woman at a certain level is not going to exhaust her internal reserves and her internal resources.
mm.
So
Speak
poor
on that. Wait a
women,
minute. Wait a minute. Speak on that. I keep wanting to stop you at every step, but I'm going to need you to speak on the fact that a woman within an affluent circle or within a sane
right,
environment where masculine and feminine energies are both valued and understood, and it's
right,
not this long question about, well, what does it really mean to be feminine? Like, it's not questioned, it just is. So give us some more on this, because see, this is the thing that people are not hearing. People are
right,
not, because you don't see it every day. You're
right,
not raised around it. So if you've not heard, most of us have not heard that in other places on this globe, women are not expected to deplete their natural resources. Just break this down for me, please. Break it down.
right. In in places where sanity, the sanity of women is valued, right? These can
Mm-hmm.
be um uh
Mm.
what we are, um well, as American women, we're kind of taught that, women in certain veils and certain things that are suppressed and all that kind of stuff like that. Like, we're trained to think that until you talk to
Right.
someone on the other side of that culture and realize that these women have networks and strength that outweigh what the world perceives of them, right? So we're talking these women are suppressed, they don't work outside the home, they're in a cult. But you never see them dying of heart disease. You never see them dying of
Right.
They're not 600 pounds. Their hair is not
Right.
all over the place. Their children are not running rampant. Like, there are certain things that we just don't see for the women that we're supposed to believe are the most oppressed. So I was really baffled by that. And I understood, like, well, all the women are supposed to be free. Why are y'all dropping dead like roaches? Like, you dropping dead.
Right.
And you're supposed to be free.
Right.
So say that the internal value is understood in many areas of the world where you have actual gold reserves, because it follows finances as well. When you have actual gold reserves, you'll see that the women in those areas have a high value because the culture has prioritized the stability of the family over
everything else.
Everything else. And they understand that in order to get a stable family, you must have a woman. No. Let me correct that. You must have a wife in her right mind.
Right, girl. Hallelujah.
So you ain't gonna be running around with 15 baby mamas. All your resources going out in person. These are characteristics
right. Not out the strip club.
Will forever be poor as men, because wealthy men don't think like that.
Right.
They just don't.
Right.
My partner at this point, I'm just gonna be honest, and I'm not saying this in a bodacious way. I don't worry about bills. And I have an empire.
Okay.
I don't. It depends on the man you're with. Because
does he have a brother?
The number one priority for my individual partner is the sanity of his family. So because he does not want backward ass, wild ass, mismanaged, malnourished children, then it's understood you're going to subsidize this entire operation.
Right.
And so
hold on one second, sis. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
I think that when we have a culture that values wife, that values family over everything else, you have a culture that supports women in their natural feminine state. A culture that would call women that are feminine, in other words, have a internal value system and an external value system, and really promotes her own internal development. A culture like that is not going to support women that are intelligent enough to know the difference between when they're depleted and when they're full. And so I think that when we talk about internal reserves, we mean the ability to manage families well, the ability to provide for your family, because in actuality, because the family itself is the first financial structure a man displays external power. The family is the first financial structure a man will exude financial organization and power. If you have a culture of men that don't value, prioritize, and systematically organize for family, they're going to be poor.
Absolutely.
And when it becomes part of culture, so when I say an internal reserve, I mean the innate ability that only a woman in a feminine state, sane state, whole state, free state to express creativity and solve problems, because there's some questions your banker can't answer. If you just ask your wife, you just may turn your whole operation around. So when I look at men that are affluent, and I look at the majority of them, some of them get floozies, but the majority of them are looking for women that are in their feminine state, because women in their feminine state are great partners.
Yes.
because they see the world
Absolutely.
from a holistic standpoint. They receive what's needed in that household through their counterpart, but the way that they see the world is one of great diversity and resource.
Mm.
Tap the resource of having a woman
Right.
in her natural state. And we have cultures where that's not valued. Of course, the woman the first thing I learned when I moved to Buckhead is that I always in my mind thought, oh, the housewife figure. These women are lazy. They just roll around in, Range Rovers and they lazy. Then I got to go inside a few homes. Oh, these women are working their asses off.
Mm.
Because
Yes.
behind those doors, they are compounding and multiplying their husband's income. So it's not that they are just free, they're making sure that their children are afforded the best possible education. They are enhancing that entire empire of that family. So to have
Right.
one that's able to divert energy to that. See, it's one thing to sell your woman off and make her a provider. That's easy. What are you going to get? A house
Right.
and a car
Right.
and great sex without guilt. But
Mm-hmm.
it's another thing to have a
Mm-hmm.
wife that is actually wired to grow the family in a holistic way. And so we have to really
Okay.
begin to look at this. We got to stop this mess because everybody wants to go back and say, Leah, in our culture, we have it hard. Everybody has
Girl,
it hard.
listen.
Everybody has it hard. And you know who has it the worst? Black women.
Mm.
But somehow
Mm-hmm.
in a negative state of energy, we get up and go to
Yes.
work with our esteem, our value, our heart, our love in the
Mm.
bottom of our toes. So if
Yes, girl.
anybody can really come back from the dead, it's the ones that are already
It's
dead. So we
Thank
don't have
you. Oh my
anything
God.
to lose. Like it's just like, well,
Girl.
I'm gonna stick by this person. Okay, that's cool. But you can expect a life that is unfulfilled because a
Yes.
feminine woman love, honestly, I look back at decisions I made when I was 16, 20, 26, and I be thinking to myself, who raised you?
I know that's right, girl.
Like, the first thing you say,
Right.
you know what? When you watch these videos and you say, well, people, they go, well, why do you want to get married to him? Out of every Black woman I have seen that's answered that question, the first thing, oh, I love him. Of course,
Mm.
when you ask that question, why are you thinking about marrying him? Oh, he would be a great father, a great
Mm.
resource. The
Mm.
mindset is completely different because how can you love somebody you don't respect? You
Right.
all just hyped up. You
Girl.
cannot love somebody you don't respect.
Right.
In order to respect a man, you have to have faith in his ability to stabilize the children that you bring into the world. That's the
Speak
only
on
way
it.
to respect. And so when we
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about femininity, we're talking about a woman that has an internal reserve to grow, flourish, and thrive in environments that build not only wealth, but great families, empires, homes, and well-developed, balanced children that do not repeat the cycle of trauma and abuse in their lives. So
Wow.
this is wifey land, right? This is wifey land
Yes.
because your girlfriend of 13
Yes.
years, that's a problem because I'm not going to give
Mm.
you 13 years to decide if you have a
Mm.
value on my worth. I'm not going to give you 13 years of my life to decide that. But we're not trained as women of color how to look for potential mates and how to be in a natural feminine receiving state.
Yes.
And when those
Yes. And
expectations
let
are
me
there, yeah, go ahead.
now I just wanted to before I forget, again, I'm going to put the links to Dr. Portia's page, as well as mine, as well as her business page. She's got a lot going on. And again, I would love for you all to share this live recording with on your page or with anyone who may be of interest in terms of this topic, anyone who would really and truly enjoy and benefit from this, because Sister Dr. Portia and I have both spoken about this, that the tide has turned. There
Mhm.
are sisters all over who are itching to make the change, are itching to let go of their masculine sides and relish and lavish in their femininity. And we just lack the information because we did not have that growing up. There has been a disconnect for many generations in our culture right now in terms of the idea that the Black woman is a feminine woman. That has
Mhm.
been completely erased from our culture. It's been
Right.
completely denied. It's been turned around. We are everything other than feminine, as well as social media and other outlets are constantly portraying us as the bitter, overweight, angry, neck rolling, all of that, which is only compounded in these young girls who are growing up watching that and expecting that that is the way they are supposed to behave.
Right.
Meanwhile, they watch other women of other races being super feminine or feminist, which also doesn't necessarily suit our lives.
Right.
But there are certainly more representations of other women of other races who are much more within their feminine aspect. And I wanted to piggyback on some of what you're saying when you touched a bit on how do you get to this point. You're clearly dissatisfied, your adrenals are shot, your root chakra is just somewhere like non-existent and completely
Right.
jacked. And so how do you get there? So you spoke about determining what it is that you want, determining your worth. And I just wanted to add to that because I have been through this recently. There has to come a point in your life where you begin to embrace non-judgmentalism for yourself. In other
Mhm.
words, when you begin to look at the clearly wrong choices in men, in mates, baby daddies, all of that, it can be overwhelming when you begin to have access to right minded information and you look at the
Right.
choices that you've made. It can be absolutely devastating.
Mhm.
And I'm here to tell you, and this is a part of why, because we are not um, so disconnected from ourselves that we are not able to throw up a defensive, self defensive kind of screen that allows us to completely go around, not deal with what we really need to look at within ourselves and the choices that we make. And one of the things that has been most valuable for me is being non judgmental of
Mhm.
myself, being
Right.
forgiving of myself, understanding that I didn't have all of the knowledge and the information that was necessary for me to make adequate decisions. I was not